Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio. Ready to revolutionize your franchise with AI? Franchise Now empowers franchises with advanced AI solutions, automatic processes, and enhanced marketing strategies. From personalized customer interactions to predictive analytics, we help you harness AI to drive growth and efficiency. Transform your franchise with the power of AI. Visit Franchise Now to learn more and take your business into the future. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back, everybody, to Franchise Marketing Radio. This is Rob Ganley. I'm your host, and we're going to talk today. I have a very special guest with me, a little bit about mastering franchise growth in 2025 and what are some of the timeless principles. And we're going to learn that from the Franchise Bible coach himself, author of the Franchise Bible, CEO and founder of multiple franchises. I don't want to steer all of his thunder, but I want to introduce Rick Grossmann to the show. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Hi, doing well, Rob. Hope you're doing well. I'm excited to be on the show today.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'd like to dive in for the guests and really give them a framing of who you are. And then we're going to dive in and see if we can break down some important considerations for growing franchises nowadays. We got a lot to unpack, but tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to be, how Franchise Bible, the book, and also Franchise Bible Coach, the business, came to be.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I started out really kind of young and didn't know much, and that's kind of the way I do things, is dive in with both feet and I figure it out, or jump out of the airplane and make the parachute on the way down, right? So I was in my 20s, early 20s, and had a small business in California, was in the entertainment field, doing, event planning and entertainment and music and things like that for multiple types of events. And started out as in the DJ business, believe it or not, in high school, and kind of built that into a really great business. And I realized that people in other areas wanted to learn how to do that. So we had a speaker at school, and he was in the franchise industry. And as soon as I heard him talking about it, it just, the light bulb went off, and it hasn't gone out since. So we franchised that business while I was in college and grew that to about 50 locations across the country over several years, and learned how to do franchising from the inside out. And it was really exciting. Back then, we were up against I call them the big boys. We were up against big franchises that had big names. I'll never forget when we did our first franchise expo down in Los Angeles. We were set up next to Subway and all of these different big brands. And we were this little old company and just starting out, and kind of felt like David and Goliath a little bit. But we were blessed to meet Irv Coip, who is the original author of Franchise Bible. You kind of see it over my shoulder there. And he was our franchise attorney and was really impressed with our ambition and was able to help us get started in the franchise business. And we grew that to about, like I said, almost 50 locations over the years. And we had a great success, but we also experienced the challenges. And so we grew that. And then I left that to my partner and started another franchise in the travel business and grew that one. And then up to about 150 locations in a short period of time, under 3 years. Back then, that was a lot. That was back before we had a whole lot of help. We did have the internet and email and things like that, and websites, but it was still pretty new. And so I just really loved the startup. Some people say I'm either a pioneer and ahead of my time, or I'm a glutton for punishment, because we now started, many years ago, I started Franchise Bible Coach. And I was invited, of course, from the original author, who was my mentor, to take over the book when he became ill with cancer. And then I've had that series ever since. And now we're up to our 9th edition. So it's been a real journey. Franchise Bible Coach, now we help franchise companies do the same. We help create them, build them, and then we help our franchisor clients build through those early stages, and then I say we're kind of like the franchisor's franchisor. My team supports them like they support their franchisees. We implement the upside down pyramid from the book and all of the great things that makes it work well, and have had some marvelous experiences with clients. And we're really excited to grow more and help other people, realize the dream of business ownership. So that's what we're all about.
Yeah. Well, I love having these conversations, and I think I say in most of them that I love franchising at least once because it's a great idea. And so many people been their lives have been blessed and transformed by the idea of starting a local business and being a part of their community and all the different kinds of industries it represents. So you and I both got hooked with that idea, and then figuring out how we can help different brands realize that better for the folks that get involved. But with that being said, 2025 is an interesting year. And I kind of, before we dive into sort of what's evolving, what's going on, and how best to sort of tackle that and take advantage of all that, I wanted to start with sort of the fundamentals. Like, if you could break it down into a short answer, I know you could probably spend an hour, but what kind of has to be there in place? What are the fundamentals of a good brand? What do you look for? What do you try to build into an emerging brand?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a one-word answer to that big question, and it's leadership. Or sometimes I say leadership. The only thing that we've seen that's been a kind of a common thread with the brands that do really well is their leadership, and we look for clients that have the attributes of a true leader or group of leaders, and we work with clients that have that commitment to their, not only their customers but their staff, and that can be kind of guided into that same servant leader model that can be a great leader for franchise owners and the owner community as well. I always say that you can have a great business model and have mediocre leadership and it won't grow and it won't do well. Or you can have a mediocre model and have great leadership and it'll do phenomenal. And what we look for, and we only work with a handful of clients at a time, what we look for is a brand that has a great business model and great leadership potential. We go in stages and phases, and we don't rush it. We don't just rush in and get an FDD done, franchise disclosure document, and just start selling franchises. Our system is molding and coaching and teaching the franchisors and their staff how to take that great leadership attribute and guide it into becoming a really great franchise leader. So we look for both great model, great leadership potential, and then we can help them get there. We spend many months in that early stage just teaching and coaching and developing, and as we're building out the different pieces, so that by the time we launch, we have a franchisor and their team that are ready, willing, and able to have a strong foundation to start adding franchises and then growing the proper way.
Exactly. So what a perfect answer. Anyone who's listening, write some notes down, because it is everything. Like you said, you could have a mediocre business model with good leadership and still do okay. So very important. Very good 3-word answer, whatever one you want.
I teased you and started with the one word, and then it got to be one.
Exactly. So with that thought in mind, what do you think what would be those early pitfalls or common mistakes you see with a lot of those early emerging brands?
Yeah. Well, I always say that you don't know what you don't know. As a franchisor, you might have a thriving business. You might even be a great leader. But the franchise business is a very different business. And if you don't have a coach or a consultant or somebody that's with you that has, I always say, like climbing Mount Everest, you would never just go and climb Mount Everest by yourself. That would be suicide, right? But it's surprising how many franchisors venture into the franchise waters by themselves. If you're trying to save money or trying to cut corners, don't do it, because you're going to get into a highly competitive business. And if you don't build the right foundation and get those early adopters on board properly and get them successful as soon as you can, you're going to end up stuck. And I call it the dirty little secret. Oop, I disappeared there for a minute. The doldrums I talk about in Franchise Bible are getting stuck in that between 11 and 24 units. And that's when usually, if you don't have strong validation from your franchisees, meaning they're telling others and validating with potential franchisees that this is a great model, I'm doing well, then you're not going to sell more. And that's 11, 12, 13 units isn't really enough to keep the momentum going, and it certainly isn't enough to live on and support your staff and become profitable. So I always say, be sure that you are getting help. If it's not a company like mine, just make sure you get somebody with a strong track record that can help you along the way, because you're getting into a brand new business. And even though it's similar, you're going to use your core business that you're going to use as the franchise model. It's totally different than franchising, and making sure all the elements are there for success. So that's number one. And then I would also say, just make sure you have, you and your team are committed to growing a business. I always say you can't try franchising. You can't dabble. It's an expensive process. By the time you get through all the steps, you can make your money back and more, which is great. And you can actually, if you know what you're doing, you can build budgets and get in, kind of enter the franchise world and compete favorably, which is one of the things we specialize in, is helping people do that. But you need to make sure you have that core belief system as a servant leader too. You need to have that. And so those are my quick tips. Like you said, I could talk about that one element all day long. So.
Yeah. What are the common pitfalls? Exactly. There's a lot of them, but there's really one common one. And just to kind of summarize it, I know there was a little interruption there. You were talking about the dirty little secret, and just want to kind of have you fill that gap again. You were saying something, there was an interruption.
Okay.
I want to make sure the audience sees that or hears that, but you were getting into, getting those first validators in place and doing it the right way. And then you were talking about the dirty little secret. What was that? Just summarize that real quick again, and so the audience catches that.
Sure. So you were talking about pitfalls, and one of those is selling to the wrong people and getting stuck in the doldrums, right, like I said. So you're excited. You have people that are interested, and they have money in their hand, and you just invested money to become a franchisor, and you want to start making money back, right? Yeah. So people, one of the most common pitfalls I see when I'm trying to help a franchisor that's already franchised is they're struggling probably with the franchisees they awarded early in the process. And so you've got to make sure that those people are a good fit, a good match, they're committed, they're financially stable, all of those things. We help our clients with all of that. But the dirty little secret is that I think everybody that enters the franchise business thinks that people are going to line up and they're just going to be taking a whole list of people. And there's a reason for that. There's a lot of reasons. But one is, as they're starting to franchise, people around them, their employees, their friends, their neighbors, family, everybody tells them that, oh my gosh, that's such a great thing. I want one. When you get franchised, I want one, right? And then when they get their franchise disclosure document done and they go back to talk to those people, they all change their mind, or something's up, or they don't want to be the first ones, or they don't have money. And so here they stand with this great FDD that the attorney made, but they don't have any buyers. And so then they get potentially desperate and they start looking for buyers and they start selling to the wrong people, and then they get stuck. And so that process is what gets them into the doldrums where they sit, and then they start spending their money on ineffective marketing campaigns or methods that don't work, and then they run out of money, unfortunately. So you have to build it right from the very beginning, much like a system that's franchised.
Right.
You're going to create a system to onboard franchisees to run that business, a mobile business like a pet grooming, or a brick and mortar business like a restaurant or something. And you're going to teach them how to be a franchisee. And if you don't know how to be a franchisor, you're going to make probable mistakes. And so the most important way to avoid pitfalls is to make sure you have somebody like a Sherpa. We're like a Sherpa that helps you up and down the mountain. If it's not us, please get somebody else that knows what they're doing. Yeah. But that's really the framework, making sure that they get off to a good start and they're making good choices along the way. Once you build that awesome franchise, or once you create that awesome foundation, you can grow. One of our clients we've worked with recently is Game Day Men's Health, and you can look them up online. They are growing and like gangbusters. Probably one of the most fast, or I'm going to say one of the fastest growing franchises in the history of franchising. And he follows the founder and CEO of that company. Evan just followed the system, and he's a great leader. He had all the attributes, had a great model, and they're growing like crazy. So you have to commit to that process, and then you can enter this is what I learned, and this is what I teach our clients. You don't have to have $1 million or $5 million in the bank. If you've got a good model and you have a commitment and good leadership, and you know how to get there, you have the game plan, you can get there. You can enter the franchise world as a small company and grow to be a massive company and make a great living and hand it down to your legacy, down to your children, or sell it in the future, whatever your goals are. But you don't have to go out and raise venture capital and try to enter the marketplace to become a franchisor. And that's what's exciting about it, is a small business can turn into a great business through franchising if you have the right game plan, and you know where the on-ramp is, and you know how to grow the right way. But once you get on that freeway, it's going fast, and you have to do the right things. So that's the exciting part.
Cool. Well, that was extremely well said. And thank you for kind of recapping it and even going further. But just some key points to get you started, really doing it right so you can stay and grow and get to the thresholds like 100 units, right? And then it's another game. But all right. So in terms of you've been in franchising quite a while and you've seen a lot. What do you think some of the biggest shifts are that we're now seeing in 2025? What do you think some of the key shifts are now that you see that are affecting the success of the growth of a franchisor?
The difference is that in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years have been technology. We've a potential franchisee is a husband and wife sitting at their kitchen table, and they have an entrepreneurial bug, and they want to have their own business and have a little bit more control over their destiny. They're relatively the same, motivators and inspiration that the buyer had 20 years ago, right? People haven't changed much, and the reasons people want to buy a franchise haven't changed much. The difference is how we approach those folks. Back when we didn't have all of the, call blockers and spam filters and things like that. So we were able to, get to people and present things to them in a different way. Franchise expos were big back then, and there was a lot of them across the country. And so that was a way that we could meet people face to face. We didn't have Zoom and things like that. So it was very personal. And as technology has entered the marketplace, starting with websites and emails and things like that, online presentations, and those things have changed the business, but the buyers are relatively the same, more tech savvy, obviously. But if you can figure out how to keep your process personal, and new technology implementation like AI, of course, is the buzzword these days. And, things are speeding up with the invent and application of supercomputers and things like that. So we're really seeing technology get to be kind of important to everybody. And that has changed the process, but we still want to make sure that we're keeping the personal element there. This is a huge decision for a franchise buyer. Imagine and put yourself in their shoes. You have like I said, a young couple that's sitting at their kitchen table where all the big decisions are made at the kitchen table, and they're talking about starting a business, and they want the fast track. They don't want to just start from scratch. They need, they want entrepreneur motivation, but they still need some help. And that's what franchise buyers look for. They look for the fast lane to get on and build that business quicker and more efficiently. And so imagine that they're going to go out and get funding to buy a franchise. They're going to put their life savings on the line. Maybe they're getting a loan against their home. It's a big decision, and we can't really shortcut it too much, right? So we want to make sure that we're using technology to make the humans more efficient, but we're not eliminating the personal touch from the process, because we need to make sure we're building a relationship. And that's one of the ways we work with our clients. We have a 7-step process that we work with candidates with, and we know the brand inside and out because we built it with the franchisor. We know the staff, we know the team, we know the motivators, we know all the different things that make that franchise special. And by doing that, we're able to take a very personal approach with the candidates. And by learning about them, I call it's a mutual discovery process. So we're learning about them and they're learning about us, and we're making sure that everybody's agreeing with the onboarding of that franchisee on our side, but we're also making sure that the franchisee has made a very clear decision. And that way we have a much higher success rate overall. So it's a big deal. Use technology, but don't try to shortcut it. Don't expect technology to do everything and people are just going to show up, with a signed franchise agreement and a check.
Right. Yeah. And just to dive a little deeper, because this is where, my background too is really this idea, again, AI and where can it fit right now and exactly how should you look at it. I think, obviously being an innovative franchisor is important to have a process for innovation. So you understand that you are leveraging the best, but again, keeping in mind and looking through the framework of, we got to keep it personal. It's a personal business, big decision for folks. And when they become part of the brand, it's almost like a family, a network, right?
Yeah. Of
business owners. So it's a really big decision, and it's all about relationships. So, but at the top of the funnel, I want to get your input on this. One of the big problems that plague most businesses, even outside of franchising, but certainly inside of the idea of marketing a franchise opportunity, is the idea of managing the inbound, response from your advertising. So there's inbound lead flow, the inbound phone calls. And that has always been a problem for business owners, right? Whoever they're working with to do that. Then on the other side, how do you manage that lead flow? And this is where I see AI being dropped in, where it's a nice balance, right? It can still add value. It can still communicate and all of that. But then how do you see that? We both know that can solve the response problem, but how do you continue to make sure there's a personalization, right? And do you agree? That's, again, a big problem is if I get 100 leads a month and I only respond to 70 within a day, and maybe I only connect with 30, that's just not enough to get a result from the investment in the first place. So you need to almost talk to everybody if you could, right? Get a yes or no from everybody. And that's one thing AI is good at, because it can just work 24/7 and beyond. But how do we balance that capability with that personalization? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, and, for the audience, I've known you, Rob, for a long time, and I can kind of validate for you a little bit. You've been an innovator and a pioneer in the franchise space. I asked you to write a section of the Franchise Bible last time around for AI and marketing and technology. So you've been a pioneer in that. So anybody that's really interested in that should definitely contact you and kind of help figure that out. So
I didn't pay him for that, folks. It's a free.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Find somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah, so they did a study a number of years ago, and I won't quote, exact numbers or even the people that did the study, because I don't remember the details exactly. But the shocker is they shopped a bunch of franchisors of all sizes, and they found that there was a very low follow-up rate with leads. I mean, my goodness, the franchisor spends a lot of time and resources and money to get to that level where people are interested, and then they weren't following up with people that were interested, which kind of makes you wonder what's going on there. So yes, you should be able to contact and touch every single lead. And it's hard when you have hundreds or 100 or so leads. With my travel franchise, that was in the early days of things like internet leads and portals and things like that. And we were getting 300-400 leads a month. And it was kind of mind-boggling, because me and my assistant sales director were kind of going, crazy trying to keep up with it. Some days we get 30 leads in a day, and it was just crazy. We didn't know the difference between good ones and bad ones. And so we had to create some technologies and some things to kind of manage the funnel, but we did touch every single lead. And it resulted in, consistent growth over years. And that was really important. So the idea now is using AI, and I'm not speaking as an AI expert, but we do working with you and working through some things, and it makes you more efficient. So every single lead should get some kind of contact, and AI can help with that. And then it helps you, develop a funnel that can bring the serious interested people through a process of your online presentation and follow-up meetings and things like that. So it can be still a personal touch, but definitely it can help you build those steps and things. But if you're getting so many leads that you can't communicate with them, get less leads. This is important. You have to be able to make sure that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. We're not just selling a commodity. They're not going to sign up and buy something and go away. They're going to be, I hate to use the word partner, because that kind of brings up different things in your mind, but it's not a partnership. A franchisee is 100% owner of their own business, but you are connected through that franchise agreement for a period of time, preferably a long period of time if they're doing well. And you need to be able to work with these people and inspire them and make sure they're on the growth track and meeting their goals and KPIs, because they're putting their life on the line for you as a franchisee. And you need to make sure that they're happy. I always say happy franchisees make more money, and that they're being successful. They're living the life they want. It's not about you. If you really investigate, and in my book, we talk about the upside down pyramid as a servant leader model. You're at the bottom. You're not at the top. As a franchisor, you're not the boss. What I've learned in business is the people that pay you are your customers, and you work for them. And so the franchisees are paying you as a franchisor, which means you work for them and your team works for them. And every morning you should wake up and try to figure out how you're going to help them and help them make more money, take obstacles out of their way, and grow. If you're in it just to make money off a bunch of people, don't do it. But be very creative and very focused on your lead flow, and make sure you're giving them the personal touch they need, but also that you're learning about who they are and what they're doing.
I have a long list of questions, and you've answered like almost all of them. I love it. I love your answers. They're very detailed.
I'm chatty. My kids don't like it because they get tired of my answers.
They're very detailed, and you're always right, Dad. But anyway, so coaching and mentorship, though, I wanted to kind of just jump into that idea, because it's a big part of, as you say, being a Sherpa, franchise Bible coach. And what in this tech forward world that we now have, and of course AI is part of that, but long before AI was talked about, we had social media, and we have, search engines, and we have this and we have that, right? So there's a lot to kind of understand. But how does coaching and mentorship play a role and understanding technologies and where they play and how they can help the brand scale and things like that? How do you try to approach that?
Sure. So, the important thing is, like I said at the beginning, and this is not an insult because it's just the fact. I mean, if I was learning how to fly an airplane, I would start knowing very little, right? And so the point of going to flight school is learning how to do it well, because it's dangerous if you don't. And same thing with the franchise system. Make sure you're getting some help in that area, because it's important that you try to limit your mistakes and see where the opportunities are and walk through the right doors. Just like a franchisee, the reason they're buying a franchise is so they don't have to go out and figure out everything. And with technology and IT, and it changes by the day now. I think there was a study years ago that said that their technology doubled every 18 months or something like that. And now it's down to probably 6 months or 3 months. There's so much innovation, and we can get lost in it, believe me. And remember what you do. You operate a franchise company. Don't go spend, $1 million. We sometimes jump in and help existing franchises that are already franchised and try to help them fix things that they didn't maybe do the right way in the first place. And we do help. And one of our clients had spent almost $1 million over the years on trying to create this massive, great technology platform for their franchisees. And when we did the evaluation at 65 franchisees, we did the evaluation, we found out that their franchisees didn't even use the technology for the most part. And they ended up, and we had to say to them, are you in the technology business or are you in the franchise business? So don't get, chase a wild goose chase. Stay on your focus. I sell franchises to people to help them build successful businesses, and I'm going to support them in that process. And that's what you do every day. And there's going to be a lot of, shiny objects that come with technology. Get somebody that knows well what to do in that tech space, like you, Rob, and then make sure that you're building the proper way and you don't start chasing things that are expensive and unnecessary. And then you're on good footing at that point. So make sure you're getting some help, because it's and what I mean, and by the way, that doesn't mean that the 5 emails you get every day that offer some new shiny thing. That's not what I'm talking about. Do your research. Search on ChatGPT, or the internet, and most important, talk to people that you trust, your franchise attorney, or if you're not there yet, somebody in the business that knows what they're doing. But just don't go crazy with it. Just focus on getting help. And of course, you can always call us and we'll help as well.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So as you've really unpacked a lot of amazing advice. I really, anyone who's thinking about getting into franchising or in the early, anywhere really, but certainly in the emerging stages, listen very carefully. These are really critical things. But to that end, I was wondering if we could maybe summarize the top 3 growth principles, right? If we could, give the audience something to work with there. Maybe a summary of what you've already said a little bit, I'm sure. But what, if you could boil it down, what would be like 3 things that you would zero in on for growth principles to really think about?
Yeah, sure. So if you have a good to great business and you want to, and by the way, I say good to great because you can have a really good business. And what we do in our process is we help bring out the greatness in that model. As if it has the potential, and we can help identify if somebody comes to us and they don't know if they should franchise, we'll help them. And if it's a no, or if it's like, well, you need to work with one of our coaches for a while to kind of, fine tune it, make it stronger and get ready for franchising. We're not, like you're selective with your franchisees. We're very selective with our franchisor clients. That's why we only work with a small group at a time, but you can contact us and we're not going to pressure you into anything. We don't want to push somebody into franchising because you have to have the right stuff. But as far as three things, I would say servant leadership is number one. Do you have a model and a track record for giving and not taking as much in your business model? And do you really care? That's probably the number one thing. Secondly, I would say, you've got to have a model that it really does work. It doesn't, some people think, well, I can't sell ice cream in the winter in the north, and that's not true. We've worked with several, frozen dessert franchises over the years, and people do buy ice cream as long as they make kids that are, want to be treated to something. They're going to sell ice cream. One of our past clients opened their franchise in Colorado in, I think it was January or February, and they were out there spinning their sign, and it was probably 18 degrees and snowing sideways. So, don't worry about stuff like that. We can help you with that, or a coach or consultant can help you with that. Just think about, is your business a good business that somebody can learn in a relatively short time? You can't have a franchisee sign up and be in training full time for 6 months. Right. They have to be able to fit it into their life, make the transition, and implement it in such a way that they can learn it, and you're going to support them along the way. But if you need a doctorate degree, you're going to narrow it down to people that have doctorates. Nobody's going to sign up and get their doctorate, right? So that's the second thing. And I would say probably the third thing is being able to budget and really commit to it. Because like I said at the beginning, you can't try franchising. And that's something that we can help you with in the early stages, and it doesn't cost anything to help you figure that out. Yeah. We want to make sure we're doing our due diligence and helping as well. But make sure that you're really willing to start a new business. And I say that in the book, you're starting a whole new business. It'll have the familiarity of your brand the way it is today, because that's the product. And your service and your support is the product. If you've been thinking, I've been running this business locally here for years and years and years, and I've been growing a little bit every year, and I'm making good money today, but where is it going to go in the next 5 years, 10 years? Are you just going to work all the way to the end? And then what, right? What's your retirement plan? Small business owners are, and myself included, you just work, and you don't think about the future, right? Retirement plan is kind of a foreign thing. You don't have a 401k that your company provides and all that good stuff. But think about what's your exit plan and where do you go at the end? And some people think, well, I'm going to sell my business for $5 million and go buy a bungalow on the beach. And we've been a part of selling existing businesses, and it's not as easy as you might think. Finding a qualified buyer that's willing to pay you what you think it's worth, and looking at that, at how the process of that, and paying a commission to somebody that helps you sell it. It's really not as fruitful as most people think. But you can invest now to build a model that will, people in other markets will pay you a franchise fee and royalties in perpetuity. And then you really have something that grows if you decide to sell the franchise company down the road, it'll be worth a lot more. The multiple on the sale of a franchise company is much higher than a small business. And so you can build in a golden parachute retirement plan into your life if you have a great business that people will be interested in other markets, both customers and operators. So, think of those things as a kind of a checklist. Oh, by the way, on our website at franchisebiblecoach.com, we have a franchise readiness assessment. Mm-hmm. It's free and it only takes you about 5 minutes. And we're looking for some key things, and we're learning about you as well. And then what we do is we offer a free consultation that shows the findings of that assessment. And then we kind of go over the features, advantages, and benefits to our system and how it works. And again, we never have to pressure people. If it's something that people are thinking about, that's a really easy way to kind of test it out a little bit as well. And we use the principles of Franchise Bible as some of our foundational programs. And so I would say make sure you're ready. And the good news is it's very fruitful. I was a franchisor of 2 of my own brands. And when you're on stage looking out at your franchisees and seeing them smile and realize their dreams, I remember a grown man standing up and crying at one of our conventions because he was realizing his dreams through a business model he loved and making his dreams come true. And I could tell you 100 stories like that.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And that was my favorite thing. The annual convention is just, it's kind of like the big celebration for the year. And it's just everybody gets together. You're in franchising, you're all on the same team, but you're rarely on the playing field together.
Right.
Because you're out running your businesses. And so it's really fun to get everybody together. So, it's a great, I think, of course, I'm a little bit partial, but it's the greatest franchise expansion. I'm sorry, it's the greatest business expansion model in history. And it's really created some incredible opportunities for people to have an on-ramp into business ownership without doing it by themselves.
Totally agree. And that's why we do these shows, because of those types of things, right? It really is fun to watch people transform their lives, brands expand, doing good work, doing the work they do, but also contributing to the communities around them. It's just a great thing to see. It's a really giving mind. I love that you led with servant leadership, and that's a big part of my belief too, and learned a lot of that from you. So, but it's definitely is so key and such a good thing to look for. So I just want to wrap us up. I know we're coming to the top of the hour. Wanted to give you one last closeout. If there's anything else you wanted to share, and this maybe again the website, you mentioned it just briefly there, but maybe the website, share anything else you wanted to share with the audience.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. As I said, franchisebiblecoach.com. We have a lot of good resources there. I write for Entrepreneur Magazine as well, and our book is published by Entrepreneur Press. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at entrepreneur.com. And one thing that I'm extremely proud of is our team. If you go to our team page, you'll see some of the most incredible people in franchising, and we all believe in servant leadership. And we've been really blessed to be able to bring this team together. And most importantly, we're all here to help you build a successful franchise company. Or if you're a franchise candidate, we're there to help you, choose the right franchise and then get the financing and get the site selection help and get the help you need to grow. So that would be something worthwhile looking at. And we're here. And, one last plug for Rob, if you're interested in anything technology-wise or marketing-wise, you got to call and do a consultation with Rob.
I appreciate it, man. I got to have you on more often.
Yeah,
so,
part 2.
No. We will do more. We've done more in the past. I know we have. So, but I love these conversations. I always learn from them. Learned a tremendous amount working with you over the years, and the book is amazing. The Franchise Bible. It really is. I mean, if you read it and understood it all, then you would definitely be on a better path. So good start. That would be a good place to start. But thank you again, Rick, for your insights. And your input.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but before we close, my co-author is Michael Katz, and he's one of the, I think, the best franchise attorney in the world. But he might differ because he's a very humble guy. But he works with our clients, and the legal side is also unpacked in Franchise Bible. And so Michael gives the fundamentals of every single section of the franchise documents and everything else. So we use it as a textbook. Actually, there's a couple of colleges that are using it as a textbook and started franchise classes. So we're excited about that. But Michael is wonderful as well. So definitely keep him in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that part of the business is very important. It's one of the things that protects the industry and gives it the integrity it has. And but it's also a very important part of the offer, right? And understanding how to share the opportunity. And there's a lot of ins and outs to that. So it's not as straightforward as you might think. And he's a brilliant guy. So I can vouch for that. I appreciate it. Thanks again, Rick. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank the audience for tuning in, and we'll please share the show if you enjoyed it. And we look forward to you on the next episode of Franchise Marketing Radio. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.